Welcome back to the Lost Cause Ranch, and today, as you can see, once again, it is LR4 truck day. Some of the best kind of days. And if you've been following along, one of the major projects we have, besides cutting the entire back of the LR4 off, is getting these true 35-inch tires to clear on just a 2.5-inch lift. Normally, that's not that easy of a thing to do, but we are going to make these guys clear without having to do any sort of crazy amount of lift, no body lift. I happen to like the body where it's at. So today we are going to find out just how much of the inner fender well we have to chop apart to make that happen. But before we do that, let's just admire that whole front end setup for a second. So we got the wheel off so we can get a look at what we need to do. This is the pinch weld I was talking about that we're gonna fold over it. Being this is on a curve, to do that, we're gonna have to do some slices just vertically and kind of give it a little relief cut along the curve. Otherwise, you're gonna have to beat it and it's gonna look all wonky anyways. So if we slice it along the curve, it'll kind of look like pieces of pizza, I guess. Back here, it may get a little more tricky. I'm going to try doing the least invasive part first and see if that is enough clearance. So I think if we leave this, I guess it's the beginning of the footwell or inner rocker where it is, we may be all right, but that is going to require cutting the fender down there and our rock slider where we have it marked out here. So slice that, slice the bottom plate of the rock slider at the same, and we're going to slice this fender across, leave this, and then do the same with this pinch weld as the rest of it. Wish me luck. Everything else on this truck has seemed to fall into place pretty good, so I'm hoping we don't have to mess with this. That's just going to be a lot more work. It's obviously something we can handle. I just don't want to if we don't have to. That opens everything up quite a bit. We're just gonna take a little corner slice out of this piece and then probably slice it here. That way we can hammer that over in that direction. We have already clearanced the frame horn on this one. This is something you need to do if you put like a 32.5-inch tire or bigger on one of these. We'll probably have to chop more of that because we're adding another inch or so of tire that'll be on that side. Loads of room now. We'll just continue that same method all the way up over top here. All right, so hopefully that makes a little more sense as to what I was going for. You can see it is folded over flat. Our little cuts let it fold over itself where needed. And if we step back and look at it compared to the other side, you can see just how much we gained. I mean, look at that, namely that area compared to that area now. I'm not quite sure what to do with this section yet because we got the bracket that is holding our fender and it ties into the headlight mount. So if possible, I don't want to touch that, but we'll have to get the wheel and tire back on there first. It may end up clearing. We may just have to trim a little bit. The other thing I decided to do is cut this little lip off. We stayed below where the two panels meet and are spot welded together. So just where that little piece bends out, and that allowed us to go full flat when we folded it over. Otherwise that lip would be sticking out below here. And this gives us a nice spot. We can just seam seal over this whole pinch weld. Get it all sealed back up and rust proofed. You know, being we did introduce some bare metal by cutting it. We introduced a lot of bare metal on this thing. So if we look at how much is left of that frame horn coming out here, you can see just how much we gained back on the wheel well. So we are gonna have to do some chopping. A little better than an inch that we're gonna take out of there. Hopefully that's enough of that frame horn now. What a guy should have did in this whole project is count how many zip discs we went through, or cutoff wheels, because we just killed another one. Should have bought them in bulk. And now we just kind of replicate the other side real quick, and then see just how much more we have to cut. Hopefully not much more. Nothing like just hammering stuff out of the way on your car. If you ever need yourself like a good little universal hammer, something like this. This is like a 12-inch, 3-pound. I think it's 3-pound, but you can get them in like 2 or 3-pound heads. Just perfect little guy to have around. I keep one of these in my mobile toolkit. That Menards bucket. It's compact enough to fit just about anywhere, enough weight to move some stuff out of the way. Now we're just gonna throw one of the wheels back up there in a minute. I forgot to cut the frame horn on this side. 1 second. Have I told you that these are heavy? Whew. So out of curiosity, on this side I didn't quite cut as much off, but I think we're gonna have to cut some more. Yep, for sure. It clears now on the lift, but that is because the tire is hanging way lower than it'll ride at. The passenger side, I cut quite a bit more off, but I think we need to trim another little bit. We'll set it down on the ground first to get a better look at ride height or at full compression. We dumped the air out of this corner and we are in mighty good shape. Now remember, this is even without any of the Lucky 8 SYA kit that'll kind of limit our up travel. I think we're gonna be good once we fold this section over. I just didn't want to fold it over until we had a better idea. The inner part of the bumper there and there is gonna get trimmed some more. We may have to trim a little bit of that bracket, the black one that I'm pointing at. Back here, straight ahead, we are in good shape. This might end up clearing, but let's turn a wheel once. Now we're creating problems for ourselves because we have the wheel spacers on. If we ditch those, this would be a little bit easier. And we're stuffing into that bump out, but I think we'll be all right. You can see it's catching the tread. We got a good amount of clearance in the rear area. If we bump our hoist an inch or so, you can see we got plenty more clearance, which is closer to what this thing will realistically sit at with full compression on the suspension and the Lucky 8 SYA kit. All right, now we can get full lock and we're just barely touching. But I think I'm gonna leave this side as is, at least on the rearward part, until we have our SYA kit here. I don't wanna cut more than we need because the next step is kind of cutting into stuff that will be harder to patch back together because there's stuff on the rear side and it's gonna introduce kind of corrosion points. On our driver's side up front, we definitely have some clearance issues with the washer reservoir, but that's okay because we just aren't gonna have that exact washer reservoir because, as you see, it hangs a little too low anyways. Now let's go full lock the opposite direction here. Well, we hit something over there. We're definitely gonna have to hammer this in a little more like we did on the passenger side. I'm actually probably okay with that rear frame horn. And what did we hit? We hit bumper. So we'll trim that. We're actually ending up better than I thought. Our next key hinge point on this fitment is that SYA kit, just to make sure. We'll clearance the stuff that we need to, then we'll show you that ride height, and it's gonna be good. And I guess I've explained that SYA kit in past videos, but let's get a wheel back off. I'll show you what that does exactly. So the SYA kit looks like this, and it is a spacer that bolts in between the air strut and the strut tower. So it spaces this entire strut down, I'd say an inch, inch and a half. And what that does is essentially move this whole thing down and moving how much the wheel is allowed to travel up. SYA kit, you can guess the acronym, save your donkey. What they designed that for, I believe, was when you put like a 32 or 32.5 inch tire on one of these at factory height, if you have an air suspension issue and dump all the air, it eats into that pinch weld, into this rear fender, the flares, it'll pop them off. It just won't roll correctly like it does from the factory. If you have factory size tires and it's completely aired out, the vehicle will still roll. So that just puts it back into giving you the factory clearance back around with an oversized tire. So being we are going way oversized, that in combination with clearing stuff out should make everything work. The other big bonus of that, and my favorite part, is when you trick these to lift them with a lift rod, what you are doing is essentially telling the computer in the car to put more air into it to get it at the ride height that you want. So it rides stiffer at normal and extended height. This puts it down to where it'll have less air in there to get that same ride height. So it's gonna be back to being comfy. I mean, it's not uncomfortable, but you can definitely tell the difference between riding on a factory height LR4 and a lifted one. I should also get a new strut, but we'll make sure everything works first. So we'll trim a little more of this, hammer a little more of that, trim our bumper, and get this thing back out of here. While we have this thing in the air, we're gonna go ahead and take the lower cover off the air compressor as well, because I think we'll work on tossing that somewhere in the rear. It's really gonna be the way to make these rock sliders as stiff as they need to be. I don't really see another way around it, which is all right. It's better off having that air compressor up protected above the rear diff anyways. And we'll just get that cover off, and hopefully we can come up with some sort of solution that is reasonable. I mean, being we cut the entire back off, we have plenty of room to work with, so not exactly worried about that. So I think we are pretty close there, maybe a touch more just in case we shutter this pretty hard, but it is clear. Barely, but it is clear. And it looks to be clear on that frame horn. And that frame horn, I mean, we could get rid of a lot of it. That is pretty much just like a crash box, to where if we ran into something really hard with the front end and the wheel, it keeps that wheel from shoving back into the cab area, saving your legs. Good thing I'm already short, my legs are short, so we don't need much saving. It's a nice thing to have, so we don't want to get rid of too much of it. And we just got miles and miles of room now. I don't think we're fully lifted up on this side. We're clear of the bumper. We trimmed that a little bit more. It sweeps nicely. We have about 3 inches here. We're gonna have to probably ditch some more of this bracket. We cut some of that off already. I'm not gonna cut anymore until we have the SYA kit, but I think we're pretty close to being in the clear. I want to sweep the wheel the other way and check how much clearance we have on the passenger side, because I blew that out quite a bit more. But holy cow, we have this thing pretty well cleared out, and that is a true dimensionally 35-inch tire on way too low a offset wheel. I don't know that we're all the way aired up to normal height either, to be honest. We got about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch clearance, where we had about an 1/8 inch on the other side. We may have to change our ground points on both sides. I suppose there's a chance we could catch those. Oh, there we have it. Up front here, definitely gonna have to get rid of the washer. But I'm gonna call that a success for today. We're running a little short on time, so we'll get this buzzed back in and kind of chop that air compressor off over here and get that set back into place so we can kind of measure up and figure out what we need to extend. We got air lines we'll have to extend out, power lines. But once we remove this, it's gonna make this thing immobile because there'll be no air. And it doesn't roll without air. And we'll get the hoist set back on it because, like I said, it's gonna be immobile as soon as we pull that air compressor out. All right, change of plans. Our flight just got changed. This is why I prefer just to drive and be in control of my own destiny. But no, they initially delayed the flight, which was putting us into San Diego too late. So I was able to rebook one that is too early, but I guess too early is better than too late. So we need to get home, get the rest of our junk packed, including some Land Rover parts. Just had a buddy get a hold of me just in time to see if I could bring out a home link. So we'll throw that in the bag as well. We'll get back to the LR4 truck in about a week or so. With shenanigans that are getting pulled right now, never has a sticker been more accurate. So we just had Ted drop us off up here at the airport in Wisconsin because flying out of Iowa isn't always the easiest. They call it a flyover state, but apparently not a fly out of state. We no longer have an airport that functions as a commercial one in Dubuque. Used to, don't anymore. But either way, today has been a bit of a cluster. I'm on my third flight rebook, and I think we're finally gonna make it out to Phoenix with a connector to San Diego. Hopefully that's not my plane because I just pushed it away from the gate. But no, I'm at the empty end of the airport. I was just down at my gate. Side by side, they have two flights, both to Phoenix, both with the same flight number. Apparently one was from yesterday. They're only 42 minutes apart. It's very confusing. I don't know why that would be done that way. But either way, we're going to make it to San Diego. If we make it out of there, that's a different story, I think. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you subscribing, and stay tuned. Even though this one was a little bit short, the next ones are definitely going to be worth it. You're going to want to see what we are taking to the National Rally, or attempting to take to the National Rally. There's a certain podcast that drops on Friday morning where one of the hosts doesn't think I'm going to make it out alive, apparently. Possibility.
22, as our aircraft is now fully boarded, we don't want to leave without you. Hello!